Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about jazz written by Toni Morrison. Now, before I go into summary analysis of this work, please remember to give a like, subscribe, and/or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. Now, Jazz by Toni Morrison is a very interesting work. Within this work, we meet a lot of interesting characters, their lives, and how their lives go about. What basically happens in this novel, though, we meet this couple by names of Joe and Violet. Joe and Violet, when we get introduced to them, they're in their 50s and they've been married for a very long time. Now, this novel takes you everywhere. And what I mean by that is we explore Joe and Violet's lives from when they were children, who their parents were, who they may be, who they're not, how their upbringing affects their relationship, how they got together. We also talk about the setting of jazz, which is in Harlem, and everything that's going on within Harlem. You have black people who are mixed. Their parents are, they have some have black and white parents, some have just black parents, some don't know who their parents are, and all these types of people are existing in Harlem, in a world where there's racial tension everywhere, where black people are trying to survive. And you have this couple, and you have this love story, this weird love story between Joe and Violet. And Toni Morrison, when she's creating characters, they're very complex. They're like onions, and you kind of have to peel them back. And Violet, when she first got married to Joe, when they first got together, she had several miscarriages. And at first, they didn't want children, but in her later years, Violet wanted children. And there's so many mental problems and social issues and mental issues and family issues going on, because within this work we see Violet start to sleep with a doll at one point. It's almost like she has some certain psychotic breakdowns when there's like one scene where she just literally sits on the street, and everybody thinks that there's something wrong with her. There's points where you think she's going crazy or she's losing her mind. Both Joe and Violet, they have so many things that they're dealing with. At first they just seem like this couple that when they were young, they were thinking about the world as if they can find this world where they can find progress and money and wealth, and where black people can prosper in America, where black people didn't have that many rights. And so Joe and Violet, in this story, they're married, they're an old couple, but Joe cheats on Violet. Joe's lover is the 17-year-old girl by the name of Dorcas. And Dorcas is a complex character herself. She's young, but she's also adventurous. She starts dating this 50-year-old man, and when people hear about this, they're kind of shocked because they're like, "What is a 50-year-old man doing with a child?" Because Joe could be Dorcas's father, not literally, but if you're looking at the age, there's enough space there for Dorcas to be Joe's father. And it's crazy that when this is discovered, Joe and Val and Dorcas, they're dating or they're having this affair later. Again, Dorcas is not like drop dead gorgeous. She's not drop dead beautiful. It's just that Joe finds something in her, something about her blemishes and her skin color, and all of these things attract her. There's something about Dorcas that attracts Joe, and he kind of loses himself in her. And in this book, when Dorcas goes for a younger guy, Joe pretty much takes a gun and shoots her and murders Dorcas. And then later at the funeral, Violet tries to pretty much just, take a knife and try to cut the dead body of this girl. So these people, they're married, they love each other. Violet, through the book, she's going through depression. Joe, because Violet is going through depression, sometimes she just shuts Joe out. Joe, he has this responsibility, and he wants to take care of Violet, and somewhere in his heart he does love Violet, but at the same time he wants more. Or when Violet shuts him out, he wants to be let in, and if he can't find it at home, he goes in to find that from Dorcas. And when Dorcas tries to leave him or tries to abandon him, um, um, Joe just kills her. And it's this thing where Violet doesn't want to lose her man or doesn't want to lose her husband, and she's fighting this dead, dead teenager. Because even when Dorcas is dead and Joe murders her, Joe murders Dorcas because Dorcas took, uh, Dorcas was cheating on the cheater, and so and then Joe starts to cry and lament and weep over this girl that he loved, and Violet now is fighting for her husband back from this girl that's dead. Um, and then the novel gets, there's several things in this novel that gets weird. Alice is Dorcas's aunt. Joe doesn't go to prison for this because, well, this is black people in America when black Americans weren't represented in the law. So if there's a fire, they would call for the fire department, but the fire department would never come. So this is a society where Alice knows, even if she pursues Joe legally, nothing's going to come about it, because the America that they lived in, it didn't really serve justice for black people. And so Alice, she just lets Joe go free, and everybody in the community knows who killed Dorcas, but they can't do anything about it. So he's just walking around crying over Dorcas, and Violet is being crazy, being violent at times, and she's just having these psychotic breakdowns. And the novel really just makes every single character so multi-layered, and the side characters are so multi-layered because they're dealing with their blackness. They're dealing with trauma from their childhoods, from abandonment. Joe certainly has abandonment issues because with his parents, where he comes from, trying to figure out who his mother is, where she came from, why was he abandoned? Joe doesn't like to be abandoned. He doesn't like to be shut out because he's lived a life where he's been shut out at times. And everybody in the community is dealing with something with men, men cheating on their wives, wives trying to keep their husbands no matter what, people wanting babies, Violet, she has so many miscarriages, she tried to steal a baby at some point, or maybe she did try to steal a baby, or maybe she didn't try to steal a baby. There's just a whole scene, a whole situation where she almost stole a baby, because at first she was like, I don't want any kids, but then, and that's usually what happens, in your 20s and 30s, some women might say, oh, I don't want kids, I don't want anything to do with kids. But when you're like in your 50s and 60s, and let's say you've earned your money, you've made your progress, you've made your success, and you're living the limelight, and you're living your life up, you might start to think about children, and it might be too late to have your own, and you're like, oh man, maybe I made a mistake, because the thing is, like, in life, the older you get, the more people you lose. You don't gain more people the older you get. You actually, you gain people during life, but closer to the end, you start to lose more and more people. And the people that are closest to you usually are your children, because your children will be there until you die if you're close to them. And Violet, at certain points, she started to think about what joy she could have if she had children, to the point where, again, she starts to sleep with this doll and start to take care of this doll as a child. Now, Toni Morrison in The Bluest Eye, she uses a doll there, so that's a really neat connection with dolls. Toni Morrison, she uses dolls in jazz, and she uses a doll in Bluest Eye, to kind of like depict how certain black people had to deal with depression, regret, or want and desire and things like that. And both Joe and Violet, they both desired things that they weren't getting from each other, and so Dorcas comes into the picture, and they both kind of like Joe had a physical, romantic relationship and affair with Dorcas, but at the same time, Violet, in a way, builds a relationship with Dorcas because after the girl dies, she tries to figure out all she can about her to the point where Alice, Dorcas's aunt, becomes good friends with with Violet. They start talking. They start being friends. They kind of become this old like friend group, and they talk about men, life. They even talk about ironing for some reason. They go off about ironing, and they finish each other's sentences. And this is the woman whose husband killed her, who killed Dorcas, and it's yeah, it's a very fact because like this novel really goes into the emotions. It really goes into the mind of the characters, why they do certain things, why they act certain ways, and we see this with people coming from slavery, people coming or kind of like how slavery or how being black in America at that point in time, how it affected generations and how it even seeps into people's love lives and how it exists within a community. You have the mixture of different races, the mixture of skin color and how it affects the community. And really the in the end, towards the end of this book, you can say that Violet and Joe, their relationship is kind of like, you know, fixed in some way or it gets better. I mean, they stay together and they grow old together in a sense. But there is no, if you're looking for kind of like retribution or some type of payment or payback for Dorcas's death, there is none. Joe pretty much gets away with it by killing this young girl. And I mean, Violet, her life is, I mean, when the story breaks down Joe and Violet's past, you kind of understand why they do certain things in the novel, and why they act certain ways. And the side characters, you also get a lot of information about the side characters, where they come from, their history, their romantic history, their family history, and you kind of get this tone or this mixture and this reality of things being built on each other, so that throughout the book, it really gives you a wide view of people act certain ways, not just because they want to, but because the way that life has affected them. It makes them, it builds on their character or it shapes their character. Because, like, depending on where you were born, on where you live, on what city you live, and what's going on in the social climate, in the time period around you, it builds who you are, your character, and how you respond to the world around you. So in this novel, it's fascinating because you're not just seeing the mental impact of where these people come from, but you're seeing how it affects their society, their love lives, their children, and really like every decision that they make, because like their climate speaks about the political world around them, the social world around them. We know how their actions and what people think about who they are and the nicknames that are made for them because of their actions. So Jazz kind of figured it ends in somewhat of a happy place, but at the same time, these characters, we see their flaws, and this is one thing about Toni Morrison. She always leaves you thinking. We see their flaws. We see what's good about them. These characters are not end up fixed. I mean, most stories, you have the beginning, you have the middle, and you kind of have them. They fix their problems, and everything's happy in the end. With Jazz, you kind of get all the goods, the bads, the nasty, the ugly, and it's all in your face, and you kind of understand why, you know, they seem, these characters seem more like people than just a narrative, right? It's not like their problems are just washed away at the end of the work. But in the end, I mean, you know, Dorcas dies. Joe and Violet's relationship, they stay together. They don't have children. The community moves on. And we get, there's several side characters. They all have to deal with their blackness and their reality of this world. But the biggest focus within this book, you kind of get this dance, this jazz of these characters, and how well their past, the music of their lives affect them. In terms of deeper meaning and analysis here, you really do get. I like the way that this book tears apart these characters, and we get to the bottom of their emotions. We get to the bottom of how they feel. We get to the bottom of, it's not just that Joe was trying to cheat on Violet. He was just looking for something more. He was looking for a happiness that he wasn't finding in his marriage. We see how the abandonment from his parents, or not knowing his parents that well, we see how that affects them in his romantic life. Because I think that has a huge impact on why Joe killed Dorcas. Is because, you know, this is someone that he absolutely loved, and he poured himself into her. And for Dorcas to just leave him and abandon him and go find a younger guy, you know, he didn't know what to do. So, if, you know, that old cliche of, you know, if I can't have you, no one can. Like, Joe literally lives the cliche. Takes a gun. If I can't have you, well, you're gonna die. So no one can, and he just kills Dorcas. Violet, her emotions for children got so bad that she just started sleeping with a doll. I mean, that's quite scary when a woman reaches a point where she wants something so bad that, I mean, you take a doll as a child and start combing its hair and dressing it up, and I mean, if I see somebody doing that, a grown woman in her 50s doing that, I might think you're insane. And all these are mental issues, societal issues, family issues that just overflow from these characters. And I think you can see that play out. And in reality, there's a lot of people in the world, maybe they won't go as far as Joe and Violet, but deep emotions like this do play out in regular people's lives all the time, where they get fed up, they act out, they do something that's just completely insane and crazy. And a lot of times, Joe, Violet, Alice, Dorcas, we see them act in their own ways, or explore the world in their own ways, and they each person have their own consequences that they deal with. So yeah, that's just an overview, a basic summary of what you find in this book. You get, you know, life in Harlem. You get black people dealing with their past, their families, their mental issues, their social issues, the politics of the city, and the gossip of the city. A really interesting book, and that's all I had to say about it. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.